Welcome into the hours, everyone. I'm Mark. I'm joined by my good friend Tyler, and we're excited to spend this time with you. Tyler, what's the latest with SAVI coaching?
Cheers, everyone. We are in the midst of our season of giving as we approach Christmas. It's been pretty cool. We've been doing special things every single day to help encourage new people come in, join our paid community. Been giving out lock left breakdowns. I know you're doing a Rose Series breakdown, free consulting. It's been cool. We've been on with Bjorn in Germany, who just said, "Hey, I learned about it and I wanted to jump on." And it's pretty cool how small the basketball world is. So I'm loving that. Mark, do you remember what this number is on my shirt right now? For those of you that can't see it, you're not on YouTube. It's a 5-3. Can I read it backwards? 5368706.15. Do you remember what that number is?
Almost got it. It's 709.12. That's
Oh
what I'm
man, okay.
seeing. Yeah.
I'm upside down, backwards, inverted, and confused. So, all right, good.
I do remember what that number is. That is exponential growth of a penny, doubled in value over the course of 30 days. Is that right?
That is correct. That is correct. And it's just embracing incremental growth, which is what we have to do in the midst of the season and against pressure. So it's a common question. It's a big question. How do you prepare your team to be better against pressure? 3 ways. 1, play against pressure every single day. 2, good pressure offense is the same as good offense, just magnified. So if you have poor spacing on offense, pressure will magnify that and make it even more obvious how bad your spacing is. If you have poor player skill sets, they don't have good vision, they can handle the ball, it's going to magnify your weaknesses. Pressure also magnifies your strengths as well. And so wherever you have a strength, pressure is going to actually magnify it. So if you are the stronger team and in normal circumstances, you'd probably win by 10 points. And the opposing team pressures you, you're probably going to win by 20 points. It just magnifies what already exists. So how you get better at pressure is how you get better at basketball. Pressure is just a magnified test. And so, if we're giving, like I said, 1, play against pressure every single day. 2, really improve your spacing. 3, really improve player development. There's no press break that's going to allow a bad team to handle good pressure. And so there's just not a silver bullet for it.
I like how you're not saying, oh, well, here's a press break for that. Because the question, you said we get this question a lot, and we do. And a lot of times it's even more specific. It's, how do you beat a 1-2-1-1, like a diamond press? How do you beat a 2-2-1? How do you beat a run and jump? And they're asking those questions independently. The answer is the same. I mean, really, at the end of the day, if somebody's going to extend their defense, they're increasing functional space for you to attack, which gives you an advantage as an offensive team. But also, if they're going to double the ball, if there's going to be any type of trap or double, momentarily you're in a disadvantaged situation. The goal should be to turn that into an advantage situation, which would be called dominoes. And I would say, you're talking about player development. On a team scale, it would be principles that beat pressure. You said it's the same as the half court, it is the full court. 100% agree. Your concepts, your principles should be universal. For instance, we want to get our catch in a really good spot, right? We don't want to get the inbounds pass against a press in the corner. Well, we wouldn't want to throw it to the corner in the half court either. We want to have really good vision and use our dribble wisely with a purpose. Well, we want to do that in the half court as well. So I would break it down into really 3 categories to beat pressure. 1 is inbounding the ball. How are we going to align before we throw the ball in? On a make, my suggestion to everyone is we race first, we race always. We want to get organized before the defense does. So on a made basket, we wouldn't stop and get organized. On a made basket, we're trying to roll and beat it with pace like we would if they weren't pressing. Dead balls, I would get us in our alignment and, cut, screen to get the ball where we want it. And then after you inbound the ball, biggest piece of advice I give you, I'll give you 2 here. Always have 4 options available to the ball. We want up the side, we want middle, we want deep diagonal, and then a safety behind. You have a really clever way of illustrating that. And then the second thing would be stay in the spots that we want. We want to keep the ball in the middle of the floor, away from the sidelines. So we're playing in more space. And then I would say the third layer of beating pressure is one that's often overlooked is half court. Most teams can, I find, spend most of their time on that initial trap, and then that second trap around half court is where we lose the war. It's like we win that first battle and then we lose the second battle. So those are the three things that I always worked with my team on. And then lastly, another piece of your player development is just general toughness. Like if you're tough in the half court, you're going to be tough in the full court. A press break doesn't make you tougher. Player development builds tougher players.
Yeah. Yeah. Agree with all of that. Let me give 5 specific things that will help also with developing a team that can handle pressure. And a little bit unconventional, maybe not. One, when inbounding the ball against pressure, and these are just things that I've observed that I probably have coached differently than a lot of coaches, but I really believe in them. When inbounding the ball against pressure, don't bring a lot of offensive players back to the ball. So unfortunately, a lot of like press breaks will bring more offensive players into the back court to run some sort of alignment, movement, screen stuff. That hinders space and allows less defenders to cover more ground. I actually default to I only want one player in the backcourt getting open against pressure. I am reluctant to even have any screens set because that allows more defenders to try to contest this pass. If one player against one defender can't get open in the entire backcourt, the entire width of the court up to half court, then that's what you need to work on is the ability for one player to get open. You don't see at the NBA level, you don't see a lot of screens being set in the backcourt for point guards to receive an inbounds pass against full court pressure. It's impossible for one defender to guard all points on the compass in the backcourt, north, south, east, and west wherever the defender stands. So this is what we teach in player development. So we've identified that our players have had trouble getting open, and so we actually do this as a skinny. We call it walk it out. And walk it out is basically this: identify where the defender's chest is. It's either going to be north, south, east, or west of you. Walk directly into their chest. Step 1. Step 2, step deep between their legs. No player feels comfortable with a knee in their groin. Step deep between their legs. Step 3, burst in the opposite direction. You will create separation, and a passer will have a pass into space. It's impossible for the defender to take that away. And then we're catching with an advantage. Just like in the half court, principles of play, we want to attack on the catch. On the catch is when we have the greatest advantage. That defender is out of position. So attack on the catch. And you should be able to then create an advantage and then play in transition and play in dominoes. Really, getting open against a defender that's trying to deny you is going to create a long closeout. In the full court is where we have way more space. Now, if there's more offensive players in the backcourt, therefore more defensive players in the backcourt, you won't have that same advantage on the catch. So I like to clear it out and go one-on-one. Second thing, once we catch the basketball, if you have one player on you against pressure, beat them. Just beat them. We don't need to bring other players to the ball if you have one player on you. The only time that we need to bring another player to the ball is if you have 2 players on you. If you have 2 players on you, pass. That would be called a trap. And when we're trapped is when we will bring other players to the basketball. 3, when you're being trapped, the trap is trying to speed you up. So any quick decision out of the trap is generally a bad decision. And there's always an open player. It's just a math problem. When you're trapped and there's 2 players on the ball, there's always an open player. So a quick decision is usually a bad decision. The first pass that you see when trapped is usually not open. So you have to actually check down and be like, that's not open. Let's check down 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000. Patience in a trap will then reveal the wide open catch. So when we're trapped, we slow down, have patience and power in a trap. This isn't football. Players get really scared when they're trapped, but they can't do anything to you. In fact, if they touch you, it's a foul. So be patient. It's the fear that speeds up players more than anything else. When a pass does come out of a trap, again, attack immediately. When a pass comes out of a trap, we are going to have our greatest advantage. So attack immediately and play in advantage. It's usually a numeric advantage. If the opposing coach were to come to you before the game and say, hey, when you guys are on offense, we're just going to give you 4-on-3s and 3-on-2s every single possession. But when we're on offense, you guys can play 5-on-5 defense. We'd be like, oh, we have a pretty good chance to win this game. That's exactly what they're doing when they choose to pressure and specifically trap. They're saying, hey, if you can just not turn the ball over on this first trap, we're going to give you advantage breaks all game long. But that mindset of you press, you pay, tends to lead to the confidence and the patience in a trap. So hopefully those are some teaching points against pressure that you can start to build into your team.
You said beat one. If you have, if you have one defender on, you beat them. The goal is for them to get you is to speed you up. So what I would teach is beat them, but you don't have to go coast to coast and make the play, right? Because usually when you beat that player, start your speed dribble, that's going to engage the trap. So just being under control. We've talked about the 4 levels of ball handling, but that would be changing our pace, and then being clever. Like, I'm going to manipulate the defense, and basically you're driving in the half court. We hunt or drive to get a 9 or draw 2. When you beat one, just know that you're likely going to draw 2, and then you're going to be in your trap scenario. 100% agree that it's like a fear-based thing of why traps are most effective. So teaching players, how do we get tougher players? Teach them how to play in a trap. We always taught our players to move the trap with your pivots. The more the 2 trappers move, the weaker they get. When we teach trap, what do we say? We say put your feet together, because that's, you can't get split. As we make those defenders move, we weaken the trap, and then we find either an opening for a pass out or a drive out if you have your dribble, and then attack immediately out of the trap, or the first pass out of the trap. We could do that with the drive or the pass. We're not going to shoot it the full court, so shoot it, drive it, or move it still applies. I like going 2 out of every trap, because that trap is constricting space on one side of the floor, which means we created space on the other side of the floor. How do we get there as fast as possible? With the pass, because the ball is going to move faster than dribble. So we get trapped, we go 1 out, we click it for a 2 out, and then attack space on the new side.
Yeah. I would also consider using this when teaching your players to be powerful in a trap and ferocious. Here's four teaching points that I would probably rep out in a skinny if you're struggling against pressure. I'm going to give first point is going to be a mindset point. The next 3 are going to be technique points when you're actually working in the trap. Mindset point. I remember when I was first taught this in high school by Dick DiVinzio at the Point Guard College. He said, you want to be ferocious in a trap. He said, imagine a caged lion. If a lion is caged and they're pacing back and forth in front of the bars, if any human were to go and put their hand or their face up against the bars, the lion would take that face or that hand off. He's like, that's what ferocious means. He's like, so when trapped, you want to be that caged lion. If a defender were to put their hand or their face anywhere near you, it gets taken off. So that really just changes the mindset from, oh no, I'm being trapped, to don't you dare come near me. I'm the aggressor. I'm the caged lion in the trap. So then how do we do this? Okay. Well, one is we need to make sure that we change heights. So a lot of times when offensive players get trapped, they actually just get tall and they put the ball up above their head or hold it away. Whereas we want to actually get low and then change heights up and down. It's really hard to contest it, especially from a low, wide position. 2 is we want to meet and greet the trap. So the negative of that would be I get trapped, I immediately make a retreat pivot and I give up my space. As opposed to a trap's coming, I want to actually pivot towards an attack like a ferocious lion. I want to pivot towards and put my elbow into the face of the defender so I can create space to then retreat as I use my pivots. So that'd be the second one. Third one is we want to make sure that we play with wide elbows, right? So we want to make sure that we're declaring our space. We're not swinging our elbows back and forth, but you can take an elbow as long as it's connected and you can point your elbow right at someone's face. And I guarantee if you elbow someone in the face early, okay, maybe you get a foul, but you're probably not going to trap you that hard the rest of the time. Last point that I really think is valuable in trap is making sure that we actually learn how to break windows with passes. When passing out of a trap, a lot of times try to pass over or around the trap as opposed to passing through the trap. There's actually a video in our SAVI coaching YouTube about breaking windows, and the windows to pass through are like either ear window, either armpit window, or top of the head window. But that's not around the side or over the top. You're punching through the trap. Not a lot of defenders come up with their hands by their ears. So those would be a couple of teaching points that I would then rep out early on in practice if you wanted to, and say, okay, we're going to go, in groups of four. We have a trap ball. You got to be power from the trap for 5 full seconds. Meet and greet, change your heights, own your space, elbow people in the face, and then break a window for your pass. And then get the ball back and go again. So that would be a really good way to develop those habits and confidence against pressure early in practice as well. If you don't have a player on your team that can beat one defender in the full court, then it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to lose. So a lot of times, like, oh man, our point guard's getting pressured. We need to bring help to them. If one defender pressuring your point guard is bad for you, then there's really nothing you can do. I mean, you have to have someone that can handle the ball well enough to beat one defender.
Yeah, I've always said, like, just extending man to man in the full court is not a press. It's just defense, the length of the floor. Like there's a big difference between pressure and full court man defense. All right, let's go mailbag before we dive in. If you're listening, please rate the podcast, give us some stars, whether you like it, love it, doesn't matter. Make some comments below on the YouTube, whether you like it or love it. We've actually had some people reach out with some challenging questions, which is always fun. And hit the like button, share the podcast with a coaching friend, tell them about SAVI Coaching. All right, Tyler, first mailbag question for you. And this one is in our free community. And I actually had a coach reach out via DM about a very, very similar question. And it's about building toughness or resiliency in your team. This coach in our free community said he feels like he's putting his team in a position to succeed, but when they get punched in the mouth, they fold and don't punch back. How do we build that toughness? And then the DM was very similar. He feels like when another team goes on a run, like a 6-0 run, his team just starts pressing, jacking shots. They get away from hunting 9s and 7s, and they feel like they have to do too much. So how would you build toughness, heart, resiliency in your team?
Toughness is like a muscle, and you build toughness the same way you build a muscle, by lifting really, really heavy weights. Toughness by doing really, really hard things. I remember in college, preseason retreat, we drove playing for the University of Alberta in Edmonton, Alberta. There's a big ski resort outside of Edmonton, a few hours, called Jasper. People like to ski, really like to go there. Our coach drove us a few hours in the bus early one morning. I think we had to get up at like 3 or 4 a.m. We arrived at the edge of this mountain called the Old Man. I remember the name of the mountain. We arrive at the edge of the Old Man, which is a mountain, 5:36 a.m. Our coach drops us off, and he says, there's a bag. There's a Golden Bear bag at the peak of the Old Man. He said, you guys have to go up and get it and be back down here by 6 p.m. Go. And he drove away. This was like a legitimate mountain. This wasn't like a little hill. Like, it was a legitimate mountain. And so we started jogging up this mountain. We weren't prepared. I don't think people really packed anything besides water. It was a full day hike to get like up and down the mountain. There's this big thing at the peak, and like there were guys that wanted to quit. We had to stop. We got angry at each other. Like, it was a really, really hard thing. And then we got back down, made it barely by 6 p.m. And like three things happened. One, we bonded, right? Like we bonded over the difficult thing, right? Two, like we developed deeper trust and relationship for each other. And three, we're like, okay, we just climbed the Old Man. We wanted to quit multiple times. It was a really, really hard thing. We had more resilience and toughness as a team. So I'm not saying like the trick is climb a mountain. I'm saying the trick is, as a coach, as a leader, make sure that you build really hard things into practice. You build really hard things into outside of practice. So I think a lot of times, like, oh, I want to do fun things for my team. Let's go have a movie night, or let's go do a dinner. Okay, it's good to do fun things as well. But if all you do is fun things and you never do hard things, you're not going to develop toughness. You'll develop camaraderie. I think do really hard things as well. And, I think there's a myriad of hard things you can do inside and outside of practice to develop toughness.
Yeah, good. The idea of shared suffering. It'll bring you together. Okay. First year assistant coach looking for advice. It's his first year coaching at the varsity level. Previous, he's been at club or grade school, and he's worried he's not giving his head coach enough during the games. Feels like he's getting caught up. So he's asking, what should I be doing for my head coach? I would say number one, it's your head coach's job to give you something to do. If they haven't, ask them what would be valuable, or just have a pulse of what comes up a lot. Maybe take notes during timeouts. It's like, what do we typically talk about? I know my last stop as an assistant, every media timeout, our head coach was talking about fouls and rebounds whenever we huddled as a staff. So it's like, okay, well, those things are obviously important. Every media timeout, I need to have some kind of data or some observation to add value and give my perspective to the head coach. I also say this, there are some assistant coaches whose job is the hype man or the glue girl on the, that's going to keep the team together. Maybe they're the tone setter. Maybe they are the energy giver to the bench. But I would say by default, as an assistant coach, I think it's 90% evaluation and 10% emotion. I think the more emotional you are as an assistant coach, it's very hard to be a good evaluator or an observer. So I tried to stay very even keeled as an assistant, unless it was one of those times where we really had to create some energy and bring that to our team. If that became the main goal, then that's what I'm going to do.
The only addition would be always have a proposal ready. And you can evaluate if you actually suggest it or if you wait to be asked. But if your coach asks, like, any ideas and you don't have anything, I'd say you're not doing your job. Now, you might have 10 things, you only get to share one at that time, but like always have something queued up and have something ready. Like, Jamie, we should probably get Jamie some reps here. We need some toughness and rebounding. Or what if we threw two possessions of 1-through-1 in right now, or whatever? Like, have something ready.
All right, here's one. It's not even a question, it's a share, and it's from Bjorn in Germany, who you mentioned. Yeah, Bjorn, he's a legend now. He was on our open consulting call and now is diving into our community. And he just shared a random thought, which is what our community is for. Come in, ask your questions, but also add value. I'm interested to hear your take on this. This is good. He's thinking player adjusted points whenever you are going live in practice. And he was playing around with player A scores 3, those are worth 6. If player B scores a 3, it's only worth 3. If player C scores a 3, it's only worth 1. So just playing with, instead of a team constraint or condition around scoring, he's thinking of it on an individual level, which I really like. I think he's being really creative here. Any pros, cons you see, or if I made you play that way, what would you do it and why?
Well, I think your second question there is what I would ask Bjorn and everybody is, okay, why? Like, I wouldn't do it just to be clever, to, do something like, but why? What's your purpose? I mean, there could be a lot of purposes. Maybe Mark has a much higher effective field goal percentage than me, or higher true shooting percentage. So we need to convince everyone that we want to play in such a way where Mark shoots more and Tyler shoots less. So why would you do it? Okay, because we want everyone to know that we win when Mark shoots more. So when Mark makes a shot, it's worth 6 points, and when Tyler shoots a shot, it's worth 1 point. That could be a why, but just have a why, and don't assume that the players will understand the why beyond oh, this is kind of different or fun. And then two is just a simplicity reminder, like keep it real simple. And so for simplicity, I would probably say one player, one variation per game, as opposed to three players and three different variations per game. That could get a little confusing. So if we just identify for the dark team, we want Mark to shoot more. Points are normal, but marks are doubled or whatever, right? All of Mark's shots are worth 5 points, and then if we want Claire to shoot more on the other team, just do it for that. So I think know your why and keep it simple.
I like that. That's good. I would also like to be that player whose shots are worth double. That'd be
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, exactly. And if my shots were not worth double, that would communicate to me that I need to shoot twice as much.
That's right. You got to make up for it somehow, right? And then that's when the head coach is just completely discouraged and is like, "Man, Tyler just really is making this tough right now." All right, I've got a really funny story, and it's going to be a subtle brag, but my daughter came home for basketball practice, and she said, I asked how it went, and she was like, "Yeah, it went great. I scored like 16 points in our scrimmage segment." And I was like, well, awesome. Like, you must have been dealing. And she was like, yeah, so much so that our coach removed all 4 of my teammates and said, okay, defense, let's think about this. There's only one player scoring for the other team. So shouldn't we all guard the ball? The play and like the message is great. I'm like, okay, like I like that. Like that's how you teach help defense. Like it's everybody's job to stop the ball. We have different responsibilities. So she's like, all right, Charlotte Kate, you play against all 5 of these defenders. So Charlotte Kate says, well, all right, so the first defender I crossed over and then I went behind the back and then I did a Euro and I scored. And the coach was like, see, if we all guard, and I'm like, oh man, like you totally ruined it for the coach there. But and as a coach, you just have to be like, well, that didn't really work the way I wanted it to go, but I hopefully y'all see the idea there. But credit to the coach, he just doubled down. Yeah, he just doubled down and was like, you see? But yeah, anyway, subtle brag on my daughter, Charlotte Kate, shout out.
At a girl.
Giving people buckets.
I like the Euro more now. I just want to say this. I've hated on the Euro for years and years and years, but I hate on the Euro less now than I ever have.
Why?
I'll give you both whys. For years and years and years, I've hated on the Euro because I think it limits options. I think a lot of times when players use the Euro as a finishing move, it tends to limit other options, especially passing options. It's kind of like it's a scoring move. You've now just committed, and it can lead to it can lead to a lot of fives. But from a developmental standpoint, I'm starting to really enjoy it because it causes you to have to change speed and change direction, and it creates a creative finishing environment for you as well. So, like, I would actually, previously I would have said, okay, don't Euro until you have a certain level of mastery and expertise. Now I would actually say Euro early when you suck at it, and when you have a certain level of mastery and expertise, you can learn when to Euro and like limit yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I really like the Euro. I think it's a good counter move, but I do agree with you that it's not playing off 2 feet, which limits your solutions. You have to make decisions on the fly. I like it as a one player to beat move. Like obvious scenario, I'm in transition, it's 1-on-1 and their chest is in front, so I have to counter. Much more, I guess, higher rate of success than in traffic, right? I think we would both probably default to playing off 2, but I love a good, well timed
I've
Euro.
also just found like Euros don't result in as many fouls. Um, yeah, I find that refs don't reward them, and they're very much avoiding contact as opposed to initiating contact.
And I'm a big fan of a Euro inside hand finish.
Huge fan of that. So is my daughter Charlie.
Yeah.
I think Charlie
Okay.
and Charlotte Gate need to go and play some 2-on-5 versus some other teams. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of dribble moves, Euros, and step back threes.
Yeah. None of which I've taught, but she's picked it up from watching basketball. All right. Game of the week is how to Euro. No, I'm just kidding. Game of the week is what we call wide quarters passing. So all of our members, I think a favorite of a lot of members is our tight quarters passing drill. It's a great way to teach 0.5. It's actually a great way to train how to play against pressure as well. This one is called wide quarters because we're going to go a little wider here. So here's the organization. We've got offensive players in a diamond. So we have 2 wings, we have a top of the key, and then I just put a player underneath the basket because we were working in 2 groups here. This is from a program clinic I did a couple years ago. You could have them at center court and they're just going to hunt the center court circle. In this scenario, we're oriented in the half court, so they're hunting the world. So the first thing that we're teaching is we're hunting the world. We're playing off the catch, number 2. Number 3, we're going to play off 2 feet. And then we're going to learn how to move the ball, and particularly 2 outs. A lot of coaches will ask for a drill or a game, how to teach 2 outs and how to get my team to recognize 2 outs or to click the ball. This would be one for you. So very simple. It's 4 offensive players against 2 defenders, and they can hunt the world only on a 2 out. So we're going to drive. We're going to play off 2 feet. We're trying to get into the world, but the only time you can hunt is off a 2 out. So we're going to reset this because I only have one possession here clipped up. All right, we have our first hunt here if you're watching on YouTube, and we click it for a 2 out. So now the ball is going to number 12 on the wing. He's allowed to hunt the world. If he can't get there, he stops. He plays off 2 feet, and then we have to click the ball one more time before the next player drives. So it's an easy way to add the constraint of you can only hunt off 2 outs. But I think this is a good kind of modified game slash drill to use to introduce that concept, because you're removing the scoring element. I think what makes it difficult to get your team to play off 2 out or to use their dribble wisely is they're just trying to score the ball. When we remove scoring, something else is going to emerge. What emerges? 2 outs and hunting the world, instead of every time I touch the ball, I need a dribble to score.
I like it. I've never actually used that one, and I want to.
You should. And ooh, within 1 week, that could be a good teaching tool
Wow.
here. All right, teach better, Tyler. You want to hit us with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many answers to this question: how to teach your culture in practice. And for many coaches, especially those in the club or youth scene, that's the majority of the time you spend with your team is actually in practice. You don't have a lot of, time on the bus, or team building time or film time or whatever. So in practice really is your primary time to teach culture. And so I'll give you two tangible tools that I think you can just tie in to teach your standards, hold your standards, and in holding your standards, what actually blossoms into your culture. Here's one: require discipleship. And discipleship is just a more experienced person or player taking a less experienced person or player under their wing. When you do partner drills, the the default is players will gravitate towards their closest friends or players of a similar level, which results in your more experienced players partnering with your more experienced players and less experienced with less experienced. But require and teach the why behind, all right, JV got to have a partner with a varsity, or upperclassmen got to partner with an underclassman. Require that because culture is better caught than taught. So you can teach culture as a coach, but a better way for them to catch it is to try to get the players that don't have as much experience in the culture, the underclassmen, around the upperclassmen. So if you're doing, ball handling or some physical dynamic warm up, like have them catch, this is how we do it. This is what we talk about. This is the level of precision that we have, whatever. And as they do that, just be really, really clear, right? Upperclassmen, leaders, whatever. I want to make sure that you communicate to your partner how we bring energy during our dynamic warm up. I want to make sure that you communicate during this ball handling work the level of effort that we give here at our program. And that way you can start to establish and teach the culture through them catching it and modeling it a little bit more, as opposed to you just kind of talk. This would be the second way to establish culture in practice. Tell them how great players and great teams would do this. You're doing attack training. The greatest team that I've ever worked with has won 3 back to back to back state championships. I don't even have to encourage them to hustle or organize because of how fast they get started and how urgent they are to get better. They just don't have any time to waste. That's what great teams would do right now. Go. Right. And so just like compare to the best you've ever seen. Or for example, I got to be in the gym with Giannis one time. Right. And I was like, when I was in the gym with Giannis, it was unbelievable how he pushed himself to the point of exhaustion in everything that he did. I mean, he was breathing heavily at the end of every set of 10 reps. I'd never had to encourage Giannis for how much effort he was going to give, and that's probably why he's one of the greatest players in the world right now. Done. Right. So I think that's how you can teach culture in practice. You can establish a model, or you can have them catch it from your upperclassmen. So two specific ways to improve your culture within practice scenarios.
Let's define a victory is what I would do. And I would make it around a standard. So one of our standards was like we wanted to be a team that touched a lot, right? So our success criteria, our victory going into practice was X amount of touches, or don't miss an opportunity to touch. And I think as a coach, you have to be willing to forfeit some X's and O's to highlight the culture, because one doesn't work without the other. So this teach better section came from a coach that we consult with, and he was asking Tyler and I, like, how do I teach culture in practice? Because I don't have time to do it outside. We're just so limited on gym time. And our advice was just, well, you got to be willing to make it important, just as or more important, even though you're in the gym. So find those opportunities. If a player doesn't thank the passer or doesn't get a touch when they're supposed to, just, hey, stop, Tyler, Mark, What could we have done right there? Oh, we should have given 5. Okay, do it. Take 7 seconds, but you're always reinforcing your culture through practice.
Yeah. Stay tuned today. I'm going to be posting, if you haven't already joined our community, we're in our season of giving. You have 3 more days to join for free and get a 7-day free trial. And today I'm going to actually be posting a transformation story, a team that we've worked with that has gone from winning 4 games per season, back-to-back seasons, to winning 21 games in a season within 18 months, and exactly how they did it, the 5-step process that they followed to do it, that you can follow as well. It's a very simple 5-step process. So the transformation story and how you can transform your program through these 5 steps as well. Just get into our community on the 7-day free trial, and you'll see that post today with a video of the story and application as well. So just head to you can head to savvycoach.com, and you can get signed up for free, get access for 7 days as well to every one of our courses, get our drill book, get access to asking Mark and I questions and dropping film for film feedback as well. We hope to see you inside there, because the season of giving is going away. And if you choose to take advantage of our annual offer, you'll get entered into a raffle where you could win a free program clinic where Mark or myself come and work with your team in person. We had one of our coaches who's in Australia saying, "If I win, does that mean you're coming to Australia?" And I said, "Yeah, it does. I think the algorithm will take that into account, but it does. So wherever you are in the world, if you're an annual member by Christmas, you'll be entered into the raffle. So I hope that you are."
3 things to do when you're leaving this podcast. Number 1, go sign up. Number 2, get ready for a program clinic. Number 3, go practice your Euro.
Euro!
Let's do it. All right, everybody. Thanks. Stay savvy. We'll see you next time.
Stay savvy.